always enjoyed growing up listening just to preaching. They had a kind of a life to them that we don't really find today.
Why do you think we don't find that? Why have we lost, or I guess have pastors lost that energy in a way?
I have a very simple answer, and
Mhm.
that is that these men were living in a revival period.
I know you've studied revival. How did it come about, and how could we see that happen today?
Revival in its absolute boiled down essence is not joy, it's not feeling good, it's not happiness, it's not energy, it's not any of that stuff. It's knowing that God is with us.
What did SermonAudio look like
Right.
in the first year?
It seemed like a foolhardy thing to get involved with. Number one, because of the money. We didn't have the money, but we didn't have the expertise. We didn't know what we were doing. God just gently leading us every step, like as we're putting our foot down, he's like, well, put it over here. It's been that way for thing after thing after thing.
Are you going to build a data center up in space, kind of like Elon Musk?
I am praying about that. I pray that a door would open for us to be able to have a data center presence in space.
Welcome to the Christian Ambition podcast. Today's guest is Mr. Stephen Lee, founder of SermonAudio. They're the largest repository of sermons, both audio and video, with over currently 3 million sermons, which is massive. That is so cool. Started on the belief that sermons are timeless if faithfully preached, and that they should be stored and available to everybody. I watched the SermonAudio story video, which is really cool. One, how it's made, and then also the story is really cool.
Right.
And you say there that you grew up falling asleep listening to sermons,
Right.
which is unusual,
Yeah,
I'd have to say. I don't think many children
Kids,
are doing that.
Yeah, right.
Where did that come from? How did that, I guess, happen?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's made differently. Everybody has different interests, and for whatever reason, I always enjoyed growing up listening just to preaching. It's, maybe the kind of preaching that I enjoyed listening to was enjoyable to me because it had a lot of energy and life and passion and even humor in it, where, the people, the preachers that were speaking, they would seem to be really enjoying themselves as they preached. And you can hear the audience responding well, and it wasn't an irreverent kind of a thing at all. It's just, as you listen to some of these men, especially from a long time ago, they seem to have a real natural way about them in the pulpit. It wasn't some stiff, like, lecture. It was them preaching God's word, and they were expounding a text, but they were doing it in such a way where they were clearly enjoying it, and they were making strong applications, and the people were responding. And to me, it was just very enjoyable to listen to. I enjoyed listening to it. So I think when people hear something like that, where, this boy grew up listening to sermons, it might sound like he was like a real bookworm, and he was just heady, and he must have been really smart or spiritual. But in my mind, I enjoyed, yes, the truth of it. Of course, the truth of it was there, but it was really more about the way it was delivered and the passion and the energy and the fact that these people had something that is very attractive. I think that's very attractive for anybody. If they were in an environment like that back in the day, where you had great preaching, but you had clearly the Lord was working in those services, it would be enjoyable, I think, for anybody to listen to. And so I would be listening to those sermons over and over again. And not just the preaching, but even the prayer before the sermon was a big part of what I enjoyed listening to, because even a prayer of some of these men back then were enjoyable to listen to. It sounds very bizarre, but they had a kind of a life to them that we don't really find today.
Why do you think we don't find that? Why have we lost, or I guess have pastors lost that energy in a way?
Well, I have a very simple answer. It's probably oversimplified, and that is that these men were living in a revival period, meaning that they were enjoying something spiritually, a heightened sense of spiritual power and awakening even, that we're not really enjoying today. I mean, we still have orthodoxy, we still have truth, but that's why, another part of what we do is we've been engaged in an effort to organize prayers for revival. And that's a very difficult or dangerous thing to engage in, because that sounds very organized and it sounds very, formulaic, A plus B equals C. And, if we just do these things, then God will send revival. But I feel that the level of Christianity that we're experiencing today needs that sort of life and liveliness of the Holy Spirit, not in any kind of charismatic way, but in a way that is certainly breeds life and fruitfulness and joy and abundance. I think this is something that's lacking today.
Is that because the charismatic movement came in, and then a lot of times we got scared of that, and said we went to the complete opposite? Like we don't want emotion to play into this.
Well, I think that the charismatic movement got a foothold because the churches had lost something. It wouldn't really have a foothold if the churches were in a really good place, if they were in a really healthy place. And so what people are doing is they're looking for a way to fill what they feel is some sort of a void. And they're running to, I think, more on the externals. They're running to things that will make them feel good, or things that are kind of surface and superficial, but they work on people's emotions. And so I believe that things like this come into the church, whether it's the excesses of the charismatic movement or even false theology. Things come into the church when there's a void, when there's a vacuum. And I think that the best antidote to such things is not necessarily just to build a wall and say no, 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 although that is important. But I think the best antidote is to have the real thing. And the real thing is to have revival blessing in our churches. And that's the thing that we actually all really do want on the inside.
That's what we desire. Yeah.
We do want that. We all obviously want to have orthodoxy, but the Pharisees were orthodox. They were keepers of the letter of the law. Yeah. They were students of the law. They were your Bible students back then. I mean, that's all they did all day, every day. Now, they were, of course, hypocritical in the sense that it was all head and nothing in the heart. Yeah. But my point is just, I think that we need to have a full and complete Christianity where it's, yes, Orthodox, which we're big on.
Could you define that word? Because some people might be thinking Eastern Orthodox, which is completely wrong.
Orthodox simply means that it's right, it's truthful, it's correct. Yeah. Orthodox in the sense that it lines up with Scripture.
It lines on the fundamentals.
Yeah, this is a biblical church, right? Fundamentals, sure. The core things that we believe are essential for the Christian faith. Yeah, that's how I would define orthodoxy.
And then revival, is that individual revival, or does it have to come as a movement?
Well, it absolutely starts individually. You can't have a movement of this concept of revival out there without it actually being in the hearts of individual people. So it does start individually, and there should be an emphasis on personal revival. And that encompasses personal devotions, it encompasses personal holiness,
a closeness with God,
yeah, personal consecration, yeah. All those things are brought into it. But then when you have that happening on a personal level in a church, then the church inevitably is ready corporately to be in a spirit of revival, I think. So it has to start personally.
Yeah. What are some examples in history? I know you've studied revival, and what are some examples in history how did it come about, and how could we see that happen today?
Everybody wants to know that, and I'm not an expert on it. I certainly have a great love for it, and I do try to read as much as I can about it. But so I'm not coming across here as any kind of an expert on revival. But there's a huge danger in going down this road of how did it happen and what can we do to reproduce it. Now, there are patterns that contribute to healthy spiritual life. But I would never be an advocate of, if we do this and this, then we'll get that. Never, because
that's putting something over top Scripture.
Well, it's not even that. It's just revival in the truest sense is a complete sovereign act of God, meaning that it's up to God. It's
Mm.
it's really not anything we can control. It's a completely God first situation. Uh, John 3 tells us, the Lord tells us that the wind blows where it listeth, and we don't know where it's coming, where it's going. And basically, this is the activity of the Holy Spirit, is that we can't control him. He is sovereign, and he will blow as he pleases. But if you look in history, but also if you look in the Bible itself,
Mhm.
there's all sorts of encouragements that we can see that can be instructive for us. It's not formulas, but
Mhm.
it can be instructive for us. And a big one would be a people that are taking prayer seriously. Prayer in the sense of seeking God, calling upon God, setting aside seasons, protracted seasons even, where we say, we are going to seek God. And it's not we're going to seek God for money or for health
Mm.
or any of that stuff. We're going to seek God for revival. Now, just to be absolutely clear, when you talk about revival like that,
Mhm.
we're going to seek God for revival. What we're saying is we're going to seek God for his own presence. Seems like an odd thing to say, but revival in its absolute boiled down essence
Mhm.
is not joy, it's not feeling good, it's not happiness, it's not energy, it's not any of that stuff. It's knowing that God is with us. It's the manifest presence of God.
Mm.
It's like when Solomon opened his temple for the first time, and it said that the cloud filled the temple in such a way that the priests could not stand to minister. They were
Mm.
overwhelmed by God's presence. That's what we're talking about, where there's a
So there's a tangible presence of the Holy Spirit, like God is here,
yeah.
and then that happens to output people being saved and people on fire for God,
I think so.
living lives drastically different
Yes,
than they were.
I absolutely believe that. And I don't believe that needs to be some sort of exceptional one-off sort of event Christian experience. I actually believe that this is meant to be how the believer is supposed to live his
Mm.
life. He's supposed to live his life in a perpetual state where he feels like the Lord is right there with him all day, every day.
Mm.
It's not supposed to be you go to a quote unquote revival meeting. I
Yeah.
understand what those
Yeah.
are. I understand that. But it's not that you go to a meeting and then you just sort of go back home.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the Christian becomes so enlivened and I would say awakened so that their whole life is changed.
Mm.
You know, they have tasted something in such a way where they can't just ignore it. They can't just go
Sure.
back. And in fact, they've tasted it in such a way where when they do fall out of favor with the Lord, if I can say it that way, all they want is to get back to where they were. It's
Mm-hmm.
that important to them.
Mm.
So now people who really haven't tasted that or have never really enjoyed seasons like that, it would be a little bit hard maybe to understand what it is we're talking about. But I think that any genuine Christian,
Mm.
especially when they're first saved, but any genuine Christian would understand, at least in the head, what I'm talking about. It's a greater sense of you knowing that the Lord is with
Mm-hmm.
you and that
We have a new self now,
yeah,
and God puts that desire in us, so
I
it's
think
definitely
so.
in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But we
he
are
does.
distracted and all these other things to where that gets hidden. Probably.
Yes, that is the problem of today, which is why I think it'll be, humanly speaking, more challenging today.
Mm-hmm.
Just because even if we were to go start down this road where we are enjoying the Lord more, we can slip right back into kind of our old ways because of everything that's pressing upon us.
Yeah. We'll talk about the distracted generation. But so the first part is taking prayer seriously. What are some other elements of revival?
Well, I would say being in the Word, seriously. This is not anything new for the Christian life. It's prayer in the Word. It's always been prayer in the Word.
Mm-hmm.
Acts 6:4, the apostles tell us that we will give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the Word. That's the sum and substance of the Christian life. Now, that sounds very um, monastery-like. He's like you're just going off and you're in prayer all day long and you're in the Word all day long. No, we're not talking about that. We are talking about somebody who lives their normal life, but their first affection, their first desire, their really chief desire is that the Lord would be with them. Psalm, I think 17, might have that wrong, tells us that one thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after. The psalmist says he only desires one thing. Now, if we had to say one thing have I desired of the Lord, what would that be? The psalmist tells us what it should be. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. What? That's the one thing he wants to do. But he actually breaks it down into two parts. Right on the heels of that, he says, so that I can behold the beauty of the Lord and I can inquire in his temple. That is, what is the beauty of the Lord but seeing the Lord? And where do you see the Lord but in his word? That is how God reveals himself. Yes, he reveals himself in nature. We can enjoy aspects of God's beauty there, but the ultimate beauty comes from his special revelation, which is the word of God, which is Jesus Christ. And then to inquire in his temple, that's simply a way of saying prayer. It's communion. He wants to dwell in God's house.
That personal relationship.
But it's specified in two different ways, which is the word and prayer. It's always the same thing.
I've heard it said that it's like breathing. You can't just breathe out and you can't just breathe in. You have to have both.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
You're breathing in God's word. You're breathing out prayer.
Yeah.
So I think that we're not talking about a monastery. We're not talking about somebody who stops doing all their work, but we're talking about an overriding, chief, primary, dominant affection that people have, desire. King David was a king. He had lots of responsibilities, but he had really one great longing and desire, is that God would be with him. If we have the Lord really and truly with us, whatever we do, we will be like the Psalm 1 man. Whatsoever we do will prosper. God is with us. So he is empowering us. He is giving us all the strength and the skill and the wisdom that we need to do, even just the mundane things.
Yeah.
So that is our chief driving desire. That's mine. But I think that should be for the church as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to build, you need to cultivate, you need to prioritize everything that involves God's presence. And that's boiling it down. If people need to ask, well, what does that look like?
Right. What are the day-to-day actions?
You gotta give time to the word and you gotta give time to prayer. If you're spending only 5 minutes, well, then that speaks, doesn't it? If you give 5 cents to a charity, that speaks to, how much you really care about it. You can talk all day long about things, about how much you care about something or how much you care about a person even. But if you spend minimal money and you spend minimal time, well, that speaks to that. It actually speaks louder than anything that you say.
Yeah, sure.
And so we could say all day long that we actually, prioritize, or we want the Lord and we want God to bless us and all this, but we don't want to spend time with him. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, and yes, it takes effort. Yes, of course, it takes a lot of sacrifice. It means that you have to cut things out because there's only so many hours in a day. But that is part of the challenge of the Christian life. And I think people will find that if they start to prioritize, and I haven't arrived there yet. I am on this journey along with everybody else. But
journey of sanctification.
Yeah, journey of sanctification. Yeah. But if people would actually start to, quote unquote, sacrifice time and even money, where you're giving those things that are the most precious to you, to the Lord. God is no man's debtor. He will pay back to you. That's God's way. That's God's economy. Every time you give to the Lord, he gives back. It's always the best return on investment. He gives back, pressed down, shaken together, and flowing over. That's always God's way. I like to think of it as the Queen of Sheba. When she came to Solomon, she came with her camels full of gold and spices and precious stones. So she gave to Solomon a great amount of wealth and abundance. But if you keep on reading down in 2 Chronicles 9, I think it is, Solomon gave back to her. He gave to her in great abundance. Now, what did he give her?
Hey, real quick, can you check that you are subscribed? It would mean the world to me. Thank you.
Now, what did he give her? She sacrificed her wealth and, her time to him. What could he give possibly in return? Now, this is a picture of Christ and
Sure.
us, us giving of our time and of our sacrificially of our wealth. But Solomon gave back to her the thing that she valued the most. I think that it doesn't say it in the text, but we get clues from it in the New Testament. But I think that the Queen of Sheba was saved. I think she came to an intimate knowledge of who the Lord was. Solomon, when the Queen of Sheba and Solomon were talking privately,
Mhm.
she wasn't just asking about the gold and how do you do the architecture. The essential thing is we need God's presence. The one thing have I desired of the Lord.
And so that heart is in SermonAudio, your company.
I hope so.
Yeah, we can see it because you've prioritized the preaching and then also prayer through some of your 24-hour prayers,
Sure.
and then also your daily prayer sessions.
That came later, by the way. So
Yeah.
SermonAudio started out with a great desire to get preaching out to more people. And that went on for about 20 years. And it occurred to us 20 years into this that, we're sending millions of sermons around the world. Okay. Is the world getting any better or worse? Now, we felt like it was getting worse. We living in America at the time, you have the rise of the LGBTs, the rise of transgenderism, the rise of all this confusion and all this really wickedness. And even the administration at the time, it was just so discouraging, thing after thing. And I really felt like, hang on here, truth is important, and we're not diminishing getting the truth out there, but I think equally important is the word and prayer. And so back in 2019, we started down this road of giving a lot more emphasis to that side of things. Now, it's obviously prayer is a very personal thing, and it's not something that is seen on the site as a feature of the site or anything like that. But it's more a personal emphasis that I have, and we have tried to engage ourselves and encourage others in prayer by way of a daily prayer time as well as these 24-hour prayer meetings. But all that to say is that the prayer side of our emphasis started a little bit later.
Yeah. And so you started SermonAudio 2000 in the year 2000. What was the immediate things leading up to that? How did it start out, and what did SermonAudio look like in the first year?
Well, basically, so I'm a Bob Jones University graduate, computer science. I graduated in 1995. I saw my first webpage after I graduated, so the internet was just brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a Yahoo. If anybody knows what Yahoo is, it was a Yahoo webpage. And I was really not that impressed with it. It looked pretty basic. It was all text, and it was a pretty basic thing. But anyway, one thing led to another. And by the time we got to 2000, I was taking care of a website for our church. And I was engaged in recording and uploading sermons from our church. And so this is all audio. And so that took a little bit of effort because it just wasn't done a lot back then.
Yeah.
The idea of streaming audio was very new back then. The MP3 format was not even invented. It was really just some proprietary formats. There was a company called Real Audio. I don't even know if they're still in existence. That's just how much technology comes and goes. But they were the dominant format. They were the dominant format for streaming audio. Problem was that they were a proprietary format, and there's some licenses involved and things like that. I put our church's stuff in Real Audio so people can listen to it, and I just found that really the only people that knew about our church's page were our own church people. And I had a kind of a frustration of wanting to get more people to listen because I was so blessed by our own church's preaching that when you enjoy something so much, you want to share it.
Yeah.
That's just the natural way it goes. And so I felt like there needed to be a place, a platform where even the smallest church, because ours was a pretty small church, even the smallest church, say upload their sermon, could be heard by thousands of people. I just thought there just needs to be that for the small churches.
Yeah.
The big churches always have ways and means to get their stuff out there, but the small churches never do. And so that's when we decided to create a platform for preaching.
Mm-hmm.
And we chose to use the MP3 format, even though it was a very new format back then, but it was open. It was open standard. And that meant, importantly, that meant that hardware manufacturers could use that format for MP3 players. They never really had portable players back then, digital. And
this is before the iPod.
Oh, way before the iPod. But when there was a digital format that was standardized, then the manufacturers kind of jumped on. There became a little bit of a variety of different players that you could buy. And I thought that that would be the future, where people would want to listen on the go very conveniently. So I think that was the right move. Obviously, that was the right move, to stick with the MP3 format. And I totally attribute the Lord. The Lord was in that decision. And when we started supporting video, we chose the MP4 format. And again, the video, there was some major format wars as to which format to use.
Interesting.
It was the Windows Media format. Real Video had their own format. And you had, even in the MP4 world, you had different what are called codecs to encode the video, competing formats. Some browsers supported one, like Chrome famously only supported their own format for a long time. And Microsoft supported a different format. And so we had to make a decision on the kind of format to use for video, which was more complicated than audio. But we landed on MP4 using AAC and using H.264. That's for the video.
That enables you to compress and store
for video
effectively.
Yeah. And I mean, all the formats allow you to do that, but more importantly, it's widely adopted enough where people can watch it, whether on their computer or on devices or on their TVs. So these formats are important because they have to be adopted by everybody, or else you just won't be able to enjoy it.
And so in only 2 years, you had 1 million downloads, which that seems really quick.
Yeah, well, it did take off, and I attribute that to obviously the Lord, but there was a big vacuum back then. So there was really nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
So this is before social media.
This is just word of mouth.
100% word of mouth.
No advertising.
No advertising.
Wow.
Because when you think about it, and this is, we understood that this would be the case. When a church gets on SermonAudio and they upload their sermons, they're going to tell their church people. That's advertising. They're going to tell their church people, and what do their church people do? Their church people will share the sermon with other people. That's a very natural thing that would happen. And because there's no social media back then, this is the only way that they could share their ministers' sermons. And so that's why in the early days it took off the way it did, because this is before any of the social sites, including YouTube. And so we saw, I think, and I mentioned this in my book, I think that if, humanly speaking, we had started a few years later, we would not have been able to
get the critical mass.
No, I don't think we could have.
Yeah.
I don't think we could have. It's like we would have been too late.
Yeah.
We would have still done something, but we, by starting early and getting there before all the noise of social media, I think that it really helped us, just in a humanly speaking way. And, we just have to chalk that up to God's providence.
Yeah. And when you say us, did you have a team from the get-go?
It was just me. So I say us all the time.
No, I do it too, which is funny because literally all the things I do is just me.
You.
So, but it's powerful. Yeah. And
that's the way it was. It was the early days, and it seems like a long, long time ago, but the site was very, very simple. But it had a simple purpose, which was to make it easy for churches to upload sermons.
Mhm.
So that was new because we did all the heavy lifting on our side. They uploaded to us whatever they had, and then we would encode it on our side into the right format.
Okay.
And we would put it in a database so that it could be listed and browsed and searched, and people can search by Bible text and all that. So that was a very early thing that we did. We wanted to make it so that it was this library of sermons. And people
Not
loved
just
it.
like a list of sermons.
Oh
it's
no,
a whole
it was a
library that you
library.
can
It was
search.
all indexed and categorized, and it still is to this day.
Was that manual indexing?
Well, indexing in the sense that it would put in a database.
Yeah.
And so when you
But also tagging in the Bible verse, all
well,
that.
well, the churches tagged everything.
Okay, they do that. Yeah.
So when they upload a sermon, even to this day, when they
Mhm.
upload a sermon, they give it a title, they give it a Bible reference, and they give it a category, like this is a Sunday service, or it's a funeral, it's a wedding.
Mhm.
They give it some keywords, and so all that's in a database, and then we make it accessible.
Mhm. And so how was this funded? Because that, especially when you're scaling that quickly, that definitely takes money.
Well, yes and no. See, we didn't hire anything out. So
Mhm.
thankfully, I had enough computer knowledge to be able to do everything on my own.
Hmm.
So I ran it all on my own servers. I knew how to set it up, and I did all the coding myself. So there's no need to spend any money on having it developed. It was a hobby. It was something I did. It iteratively improved. So you just improved it over time. And it grew into something that was a good thing. If there's any spending money involved, it would have been with the cost of the lines,
Lines of what?
well, the cost of the communication lines. So in order for people to access your servers, you have to
Right.
be connected. So
To the internet,
we're talking back then in the 90s, we're talking
Yeah.
about dial-up. So this is over telephone, like copper telephone lines, which nobody probably even knows about now. But and the way that people connected was through a modem, which was very, very slow and very, very primitive. That was the only way. But for a server, you had to be permanently connected, not through this sort of dial-up thing. And that was done via what are called ISDN lines. And then they came out with T1 lines, and they're copper lines, still through the phone company, but they're more for businesses. They cost money. And so that would have been the expense. But there was no expense on development or actually maintaining the equipment. I mean, I did all that.
So you had your own server.
Oh yes, I had my own
Server stack.
servers. It was just a room full of servers. Just these, not racks, just desktop form factor, but they were running server OSs on there, and
It's like old laptops.
they're not laptops. They were desktops. They were like tower
Sure.
desktops. But they just have a picture of it where they're just sort of they have taken over one of my rooms.
Okay.
And we just ran SermonAudio like that for
That's
a long
pretty
time.
cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then what happened eventually, as things go, is you kind of outgrow that because you can't just keep adding servers forever, and you run into all sorts of limitations physically. And so we went into the cloud, which was a huge step. It was a pretty big step. I would say that happened back in 2009, where we started going to the cloud for all of our storage and for all of our compute, where SermonAudio eventually was running in the cloud. So we no longer had any servers in our bedroom, and it was just running in the cloud. And we did that for several years until we started to realize our vulnerability with cancel culture, and then we started pulling back.
Talk to me about that. When was that moment? What were the events leading up to that where you're like, we need to self-host this?
I think it was probably, if I had to, I don't remember exactly. It's 2016, 17 for sure, where we started to get a little concerned, because we had no sermons in hand. So everything is in the cloud, and so we had no physical access to anything anymore. And just getting increasingly uncomfortable with that. And, society is going the way it is. And even these big tech companies they're showing their their cards.
What are some specific moments that you remember?
Well, the big one for sure. I mean, there could have been situations leading up to that, and there were actually some isolated incidents that you just sort of dismiss when you see them. You
Sure.
kind of dismiss them, but for sure, leading up to that was around the time of Trump when he came on the scene.
So 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when he came on the scene, there was a lot more of that thing going on, the cancel culture going on, deplatforming, and there was a moment where it was pretty astonishing where he was completely erased from every platform.
Like the banks.
Yeah,
And then also
and
they kicked him off of multiple platforms. That's why he had to create Truth Social.
Yeah, that's exactly
things
why
like
he
that,
created
like,
that.
Twitter.
He never wanted to be found in that situation again.
Yeah.
And I think he realized, as the church should realize, is that when you lose your ability to get your message out, when you lose your ability to speak to the people, then you basically are no way to communicate. And I think, more importantly than politics, I think that when the church loses its voice, its ability to reach people, yes, they have still their four walls, but I'm talking about when they can't speak to the people anymore, to the masses, then that becomes a very dangerous situation where they become mute. And it was too easy for that to happen. It still is too easy for that to happen because all the power of communication and the distribution of truth and knowledge is really just in the hands of a few companies.
Yeah.
Even today.
Yeah.
And I
think I think in the video there was like one pastor, he uploaded his sermons to YouTube for years, and then that was just all gone all of a sudden. And then
actually it wasn't YouTube, it was another platform.
Okay.
But yeah.
Then I think Facebook also, that if they change their content restrictions, then you can get blocked or banned and things like that, right?
Well, if you look at the terms of service for all of these platforms, they all have language in there to do with inciting violence or hate speech. And obviously we would make a case saying, well, we're not doing that.
Right.
But if you were to go into a court of law, they can make a case where, look, the stuff that you're putting out there is causing harm, it's causing distress, psychological, that leads to physical, and
look what the UK is doing currently.
Yeah.
It's astounding, as looking at it from a US perspective. It's like, what in the world? What about free speech? It's like, well, not every country has that.
Well, and because they're hiding behind this cloak of, well, we want to protect people. And so they see some of the quote unquote harmful messages coming from us. And we would say that about other religions, by the way. Like we would say that some of the extreme forms of Islam or whatever, it's not good for society.
No. Yeah.
So we would say that.
Yeah.
But they see everything like that. They're not making a distinction. They see extreme forms of Islam the same way they would see somebody faithfully preaching the Bible. Saying that if you don't repent and turn from your sins, then you are at risk of eternal punishment. I mean, that sounds pretty.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty psychologically harmful to people. So people could make a case like this is not a good thing for the public good. It's too easy for them to just turn it off.
Yeah.
And I think that churches just need to wake up to the fact that the world is not our friend. Doesn't mean that we just completely abandon using everything of the world, but I don't think we should be so naive to think that these avenues of communication, which are very essential for us today, will always be there.
Yeah.
I think it's very naive. I think it's negligent, actually. So we're just doing what we can to protect ourselves from a day where that could happen. And that's the whole effort with the vault. That's a whole side of what we're doing at SermonAudio. That's more the infrastructure and hardware side of SermonAudio, where SermonAudio
bringing it out of the cloud.
Yes,
that's what's happening. Or is it you're building your own cloud?
Well, we're building our own cloud.
Your own cloud, yeah.
Out of the cloud and into our own. So the cloud is simply a way of saying a data center.
Yeah.
So it's a data center that we're building.
And it's actually multiple of them now.
Which is the nature of data centers. You have to have multiple sites. To have a proper data center, you have to have multiple geographical sites.
What Why is that?
Well, because you can have a natural disaster in one site, and then that's that.
Yeah.
It's over. So it's the name of the game in the cloud world, or the name of the game in computing generally, is redundancy.
Mm.
You can't just have one copy of something. You have to have multiple. You know that even with your personal computing, if you have everything on this one hard drive,
Mm-hmm.
that's a risk. You know that's a risk. Everyone knows that's a risk. Like, you have all of your life photos, all of your life documents, all of the important things of your business on one hard drive. You wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You would at least make a second copy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for data centers as well. It's not really a proper data center unless you have
Multiple locations.
three
Okay.
copies. And so we've always sought to have 3 of everything.
So where are those locations right now?
Well, Greenville is our primary because that's where we are. It's
Mhm.
on the campus of Bob Jones. We're very happy about that. We have a really wonderful and friendly relationship with the school. That all by itself is, to me, a miracle, because that, there's no real reason why that should have happened, but it has happened.
Mm.
But we actually have a whole nother copy on campus again. So we actually have an internal, but just in a different location on campus. And then we have another copy in the Northeast that we don't really like to talk about exactly where it is.
Sure.
And we have another copy in Canada. And then we just opened up a copy in the UK. UK is a little bit more publicly known because it's fine. It's in a public space, but it's in Northern Ireland. And so we just set that up about a month ago.
That is really cool.
Yeah. And these are all works in progress. When we say that
Sure.
we set it up, that means that we got some racks there. We have our firewall there. We have the connection in place. We have, power, cooling, and all that in place. Now we have to fill the racks. We have to fill it with compute and with storage to make it fully functional.
Right.
Yeah. They're just marginally functional right now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just starting.
Yeah, but that is still really cool. And the one in Greenville, you can visit. And
we welcome that.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is part of it, that a data center doesn't normally look interesting. It's just a rack of servers and computers, and like, what's the big deal? But we designed it in such a way where it would be visually appealing. We wanted it to look good. We made it presentation worthy. When we first designed the vault, is what we call it at Bob Jones, the architect had this, what they called the server room, sort of in the back closet, because that's the server room.
Right.
But we actually wanted it up at the front behind glass, because it was always our desire to be able to present what it is that we're doing, like actually show the machines. It's like a parade of a military. It's a show of force. These are the machines that are doing the work of getting the gospel all around the world, and it's happening right here. Physically, this is it. And I think that's helpful for people to see that. Yeah, helpful in the sense that it's not some mystery thing.
It's tangible. Yeah, it's tangible. It's seen,
but it's also inspiring. Yeah, we wanted to make it so that it's like, wow, this is great. We wanted to encourage them. We wanted to inspire them, inspire other technical people to use their technical skills for similar purposes. Yeah. Has to be seen.
Yeah. And then you launched Global Sermons. Was that 2019?
No, Global Sermons actually was launched last year.
Oh, last year. Okay. Yeah. Got my timelines wrong. Yeah. Last year,
Global Sermons was, So the whole AI thing came on the scene too. The AI, this is new. This is new as of just a few years ago. Yeah. Like, before this time, nobody was talking about AI. Nope. Not a single person. And then there was a Chat GPT moment, right?
2023.
Was it?
I believe so, yeah.
Where it basically was like, what is this? Yeah. And anyway, that has changed a lot for us as well.
How has that changed?
Because AI is a very powerful tool, and it can't be ignored. But part of the problem with tools like that is that you're sort of sucked back into the cloud. And so what we've been trying to do is, yes, utilize this wonderful tool called AI, but do it in a controlled environment within our own vault infrastructure. So we call it Vault AI. So that means you have to have the hardware to run it, and then you have to have a little bit of a know-how to run it locally too.
You were able to do that because you have a H100 NVIDIA chip.
Yeah, we have the GPUs. The H100 is definitely one of them. They also have an A100 and other chips. But the NVIDIA is currently the leader in the chip market, not because they're the only ones who can create those GPUs. There are other vendors, but they got in early. NVIDIA did, because they were in the gaming world and they got in early, and they did something smart, in my opinion. They went after the developers. And so they provided the libraries and all the tools that developers need to utilize these chips. And so what happens is when developers start investing all their time in developing around these libraries, it's very difficult to migrate away from that. They've already invested all their time.
It's kind of like going back to the MP3 and MP4
I think so.
versions. Yeah.
These guys that are in these kinds of races, being first to market is a very important thing.
First mover advantage.
I think so. Now, that doesn't mean that they have a guaranteed spot. They still have to fight for it, but they have a huge advantage.
Yeah. And so then how have you been using AI specifically?
Well, AI, if people know AI best as the thing that you ask chat questions and it comes back with answers, and it does it in a very natural way, and it's all sort of natural language, and it seems really smart and all this. You know, it really is just a different way of getting the information to you. You know, Google, we had a Google moment back in the Google search days where you search for anything. It's like, wow, look at all these results that came back like within 1 second, split second. It's like, how does this even work? And, you know, it was such a mystery. But AI is essentially the same thing. It's got a knowledge base, like Google indexed all of the internet. And you have these AI models that are crawling around, learning, quote unquote, learning, and making their models smart based on all the information that's already on the internet. And what they're doing is they are essentially, I use the word learning, but they are learning.
Pattern recognition.
Yeah, pattern recognition and relationships. So the easy way that I like to explain it is this, the very simplified way is to say that the word cat is C-A-T. In the old days, that was stored on the computer as the letter C, A, and T. And it was just stored as data. But in the new AI way, it's stored as a bunch of relationships. That word cat is stored as a relationship as it relates to dog, as it relates to kitten, as it relates to fur, as it relates to whiskers and all that. So that one word has thousands of what they call vectors that are like essentially relationships, and they have weighted values.
Mathematical relationships.
It's all numbers. It's numbers. And there's a lot of them. Yeah. Which is why you need to have GPUs, which is good at crunching numbers. And so when you have a computer that finally, quote unquote, understands what a word means, which is what happens when you have weighted relationships with all words, because that's how we understand what words mean. When we talk about cat, we're not thinking of CAT. We're thinking of everything that we know about cat.
Our experience with it.
Everything. Yeah. Everything. Well, that's what a computer is doing too. And when it scours the internet and it learns, how does it learn what cat? It's learning based on all the uses of it in every book and every article and everything, and it's seeing all the way it's connected to everything, and it's building those vectors. And so what that does is that all of a sudden now the computer has the ability to magically understand words, and so it is able to give you the answer in natural language, and it's because it understands how to give that answer to you. But what that also does is that it gives it a much stronger ability to translate,
because it's essentially math, and so then it
knows how to map what these words are in this language now, and it becomes very, very good at translation. Very good at translation, better than anything we've ever had before. That to me opens up an enormous opportunity for the gospel, in my opinion. I mean, there's AI can do a whole bunch of other things as well, and we know that has limitless uses. But the thing that we're most interested in is with language. Sure. So that our desire is to be able to take every sermon that's ever been preached, even historical stuff, and have it in every language. Every language group should have the benefit of reading a Spurgeon sermon or listening to a Spurgeon sermon or listening to any of the Puritans. For centuries, only the English-speaking world had the benefit of all the treasures of some of the godliest men in church history.
Yeah.
And these other language groups, other countries, other cultures, they've really never had the benefit, exposure of some of these resources. But it's our desire, and I believe that this has come to the kingdom for such a time, this type of tool for this purpose, for
Yeah.
translation. So our desire is every sermon in every language.
That is really cool, but almost overwhelming then.
Yeah.
Like, how
Tell me
are they
about it.
supposed to decide which sermon to listen to in a way?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, think about it. We're talking about language groups that, these sort of vertical silos. And so some group that has very little resources by way of truth and Christianity. Now, all of a sudden, they have the same as what we do.
Yeah.
So
Essentially unlimited in a way.
yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot from our perspective, every sermon in every language, and it is a lot, and we need the infrastructure to be able to support that. But the world is a big place. I mean, if we really want to reach the world, that's the only way. You have to solve the language barrier. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's only going to improve.
Yeah, 100%. So that is global sermons.
Yes.
That is really cool. And you have a new kind of side project in a way, the foundation tour.
Tour.
Yeah, the tour. What is that about?
Foundations tour sounds like it should have nothing to do with what we're doing. Basically, this is a tour of Scotland. We call it the Foundations Tour of Scotland. And we just started to do this. But there's a reason behind it. There's a story behind it. And that is simply that some years ago, we had a gentleman in Scotland who reached out to us out of the blue. And this is the way it has been going for us for some time, these stories of providence. He reached out to us out of the blue, and he just had a great desire to know who we were and to work with us in some way. So it turns out this is an individual who owns a lot of hotels in Scotland. He's actually the largest single private hotel chain in Scotland and England, and it's called MacDonald Hotels. The man's name is Donald MacDonald. Very Scottish name. But he's a great lover of listening to sermons. He loves listening especially to the old Puritans and the readings of the Puritans. And he's a very successful businessman as well. So over the years, we've traveled to Scotland just to fellowship with him and understand him a little bit better. And one thing led to another. And he was instrumental in helping us with some of the more heavier, more costly equipment related to global sermons. So we talked about the GPUs, the NVIDIAs, the H100s. This is very expensive equipment. One server, one box would cost like $100,000, just one box. And then you have one chip that would cost like $30,000. This is equipment that we just simply is just out of our ballpark. But he helped us with that and got us started at least on this road of global sermons. And right now we're in the process of globalizing all of Spurgeon's sermons. So he has over 3,000 sermons in English. We make them into an audio book. We use AI to do that. And our desire is to use AI to get them in multiple languages too. So anyway, it was our great appreciation for Mr. MacDonald and for a growing love for his own country. He has a great love for his country, the heritage of his country. But as we mentioned, the UK is in a bit of a mess today. And he believes that the only answer is the gospel, as we all believe as well. And so we're very happy to work with him and obviously partner with him in this endeavor. But we also were wanting to do something that could be mutually beneficial, something that could reciprocate in some small way. And this tour was our small way of doing that. It brings people to his country that he loves so much. It's a tour of Scotland, and we have a guide, a local guide, who does a very wonderful job of explaining the history of Scotland and all of its heritage and the Covenanters and the great sacrifice that they made and the reformers that were there. And what we hope will happen is that it will introduce people to a very important part of the world that that they need to know about, because it's this part of the world that gave the rest of the world so much by way of truth and light. And now it's this same part of the world, humanly speaking, that's going to give the rest of the world the truth and the light in their own language. You know, the Lord has so raised up Mr. McDonald for that purpose. There have been other people who have been helping us, but he singularly has been helping us with the Global Sermons effort. And I think that the world should know that this little island out there in the Atlantic, that God has been pleased to use that one land, that country, to be a blessing to the rest of the world. And so bringing people there by way of a tour enables us to introduce people to Scotland. But it also is a practical side too, because he owns hotels all over the place. It made it really easy for us to organize something like this. I mean, it was hand in glove easy, where he's working with us. We're working with multiple physical hotels. And if we were to do that in a traditional way, where we're just having to contact each one independently, it would just be logistically, administratively too difficult. But because we're working with one hotel, and we are working in such a way where he is actually doing us a favor, and we are bringing people to his country, and he's getting great satisfaction out of that. It just works both ways.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
I
both
think it is.
the history and the church history all combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, you spoke in chapel last December, so it's December 2025, and you were talking about, you know, how this generation is distracted.
Right.
And having a waterlogged life. Could you talk more about that
Sure.
and that effect on us?
Right. Well, obviously, had the opportunity to speak in chapel at Bob Jones University. It was a great privilege and an honor to do that. But as I was thinking about that opportunity, you think about these students that are so busy. I had 2 students at Bob Jones at the time, and I know how busy they are with their studies and with their exams and tests and quizzes and projects and all that. And I just see that as a life that's just tremendously distracted, not just with normal school work, but just in the general way that our society has gone digitally with social media and the phones. I wanted to speak into that. I wanted to just try to help them, as I try to help my own kids all the time, but I wanted to try to help them, to get them to realize this is where they are. This is actually a problem, and what the answer is, what the solution is. The solution is not, as some people might think, the solution is not to get rid of our phones. I mean, I don't think that's possible if you're going to do any kind of work in this world. Yeah, that would be nice, but I don't think that's the real solution. And so what I brought out in that message was that you had Elijah there, and he was with the prophets of Baal. And what Elijah did was, the great contest was to see who's the real God, and the God that answers by fire, let him be God. And so they had the prophets of Baal, they had their altar, and they were trying to get Baal to bring down the fire. And of course they failed. But in Elijah's case, what he did was, yes, he prayed to God, but he did something that he didn't need to do, which was he dumped all these barrels of water all over the sacrifice and the altar. So much so that there was a trench, and it was filled with water, and it was just dripping with water. And I just made the application that this is a waterlogged situation. Impossible, humanly speaking, to see this ignite into any kind of a fire, because it's so waterlogged. And I think Elijah was he did that in order to illustrate the fact that, look, when God does this, it's going to prove so much that he is God, because the situation, humanly speaking, is so impossible. And that's the way it feels like for a lot of us. Our lives are so overrun, students' lives, young people, but all of us really are so overrun with everything that this world is throwing at us. And I see it spiritually, I see it as the devil throwing everything in the kitchen sink at us to try to stop us, to try to distract us, to try to get us off course, to try to declaw us, to make us powerless, and just slow us down. Anything he can, just throw whatever he can at us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting worse. He's throwing all the tricks that he has in his books and new stuff that are being created. It's going to be very, very difficult for a Christian. But the answer to a waterlogged life is what I was trying to get at, was actually what they need was God's fire. God's fire, something from heaven to come down to earth. It's not that we just get a neatly packaged life. I mean, there's a place for that. But the real answer is God's fire, if you want to say, but God's power in our lives. So that even in a waterlogged life, even in a life full of noise and distraction and responsibilities, legitimate ones, in a life that's waterlogged. So humanly speaking, you're thinking, there's no way that we can be doing anything meaningful for God anymore because we're just way too busy. Well, the answer to that is where you have God's power operating in your life, God's fire, something from heaven coming down. And this is going back to what we first started with in our first conversation, back to revival. I really believe personally that this is the reason why SermonAudio is where it is today. There is no reason, rationale, there's no even way for anyone to think that a team of 10 is what I used to like to call it. A team of 10 can set up data centers all around the world. That makes no sense. That's too ambitious. You need to have big backing,
raise funding,
business
all this.
plan. You've got to have it all.
Yeah.
We didn't even know how to do this when we first stepped into it. We didn't even know. We're not experts in this. We're learning as we're going. It's like as we take a step of faith, the waters are opening up before us. And I believe that if nothing else, we are a living example of what I'm talking about, that there is no human explanation for why the fire should come down from heaven and lick up all the water around that waterlogged sacrifice. There's no human explanation for that, other than the Lord is empowering us and he's doing this. He's totally doing this. I talked about choosing the right formats early on. What was that but God just gently leading us every step, like as we're putting our foot down, he's like, well, put it over here, put it over here, put our next foot down, and he's just gently putting it over there. And it's been that way for thing after thing after thing. We started down this data center road before it became popular to talk about data centers. Now everybody's just talking about data centers.
Yeah.
That's all we talk about is data centers.
That is true.
But we were building this thing out back in, talking about it back in 2019. It seemed like a foolhardy thing to get involved with. Number one, because of the money. We didn't have the money, but we didn't have the expertise. We didn't know what we were doing. And so we just started down this road and we talked to the school. We said, I think this is what we need to do. And school's like, good idea, but we don't have money to do it. And neither do we. And so, but it was just a month after that we get an email out of the blue, another total random businessman. And long story short is he's the one who funded our setting up the vault at Bob Jones. Okay. We didn't know how the money was going to come, but it came that way. And as far as the actual raising of the funds for the vault itself, SermonAudio is a business, but we operate just to do what we're doing, the platform. We don't have the excesses to be able to purchase equipment for the vault.
Sure.
So we depended on people supporting us. So on our vault page, we have a little page set up for the vault. We had a way for people to help us with this. And we had a little thermometer there that went from $0 to $1 million. We just put $1 million there just because it was a nice round number. Yeah. But also we did the math, and it would be probably about $1 million for us to do what we're trying to do. But we just thought that's never, it's good to put out there, but
it's a stretch goal.
Yeah, but it'll be nice to see it even, even a fraction of that. But we have exceeded that to this day. We have exceeded that. And people have just been supportive. And we are a for-profit company, meaning that they don't get a tax benefit for doing that. And they know that. And they're willing to do it. And again, that makes no sense. That means they have to put a lot of trust in us too, doesn't it? Because a nonprofit has all their books open. They can see everything is there. We're simply telling the people every penny that you send our way will go towards this vault effort. And they're just having to take our word for it. So I see this whole effort, SermonAudio itself, pre-social media, pre-iPhone, hardly even streaming media at all. And up to this point where we're now talking about development in multiple countries, even before it became popular to talk about data centers, with a shoestring budget, with no real expertise. I mean, I feel like we're definitely more expert at it now, but the whole thing to me speaks of what to do with a waterlogged life. This is how God will do it. He will do it not by power, not by might, but by his Spirit. He will do it in a way that can't be explained, in a way that seems impossible. And I guess that message was a little bit of a microcosm of what we're experiencing. I believe that is the answer for the church today, for every Christian, not just for us. It's the answer for every Christian for a waterlogged, distracted life.
Yeah. I don't remember where I don't have the full quote out, but like you were talking about destruction of distraction, the antisocial movement. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I think I put that in one of my talks, or I don't know if it was the Bob Jones one, but certainly,
I forget where I found that, but
it was the destruction of distraction. Basically, I believe that the distractions in our life, they are destroying us.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not alone in saying that.
No.
Elon Musk, of all people, says that, because it was put to him, it was asked him, what's one modern invention that is doing more harm than good? And he said short form content.
Sure. Yeah.
Short form videos. And we're all understand that. Basically, you can get sucked into this, and it's basically rotting our brains because we can't even remember the thing before, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm not alone in saying that distractions are destroying. So yeah, it's just a turn of words that I think is actually true.
The antisocial movement, that's antisocial media, I guess.
Yeah, social media, and I'm basically wanting to get into a habit where we're not sucking up all of our time on the social sites. Now, we have to use these sites because that's where people are, but we don't have to be the consumers of them in the sense that we're the ones just spending endless hours on them. And so we even SermonAudio, we create tools to facilitate getting media onto these sites. We have to. But I would say, I mean, even myself, I'm on there very restricted, extremely restricted, just to see what I need to see and then get off of it. Because I know what it can do to me and to my brain. And so I'm just encouraging, when I say things like that, there needs to be an antisocial movement. And what I mean by that, one day in my mind, what I would love to see is a day when, right now it seems so impossible for there ever to be a day when the youth or people in general will just get their face out of their phones. You see it in every restaurant. You see it everywhere in the airports. Everybody has their face in their phones, and they're on social media. I mean, that's what they're doing. And it feels like, will there ever be a day when that can not be anymore? And I like to think of it like this. There was a day not that long ago when just about everybody smoked. Smoking was so pervasive. So
that was the social thing to do.
Well, it was very social. I mean, on all the old movies, they're all smoking. Airplanes, everybody smoked on an airplane. I remember as a kid going around, like even these long flights in an airplane filled with smoke, and it was just awful. Now it's almost like bad social manners to be smoking. Like people don't smoke.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It seemed like something that was so pervasive that could never change. And now it's actually the opposite, where it has a negative connotation. I would like to see one day where the same is actually true with our phones and the feeds, where such is the mood of society, where it's no longer acceptable, socially unacceptable. Yeah. And where people will, it's like smoking. Where people, but they have to almost do it in a corner. They're like, it's not the thing to do anymore. And I would love to see that day. And that day could come. Obviously, there's a spiritual side to this, but even humanly speaking, the only way these social sites work is if everybody's on them.
Yeah.
The minute everybody comes off of them, the social sites don't work anymore, And so who knows? Maybe we will lose our appetite for it, and we'll see a day when that is no longer a problem.
Yeah.
That's all that meant. That meant.
Yeah. No, that is hopeful. Like you can see that cycle with smoking and in other areas too. And so like it is possible to have it come and go. Who's your favorite founder?
Founder?
Yeah. Do you follow founders and their story and how to become a better leader? Yeah.
Oh, as far as pure leadership, no, not really. I don't really follow people like that. I have a great admiration for Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great admiration for him only because he makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like what he says is sensible.
That's interesting because a lot of people don't think that. So what things are making sense?
Oh, just on a technical level. Like if you listen to him on what he says about full self-driving,
yeah,
it makes perfect sense. And I actually agree with him. If you listen to him about SpaceX,
mm-hmm.
and the challenge of SpaceX is reusable rockets. That is the key. That is the key to making all of this unlocked. And I absolutely agree with that. He's been able to solve that.
Yeah.
When it comes to
taking a technical problem and saying first principles thinking and like we can conquer this.
And he would say things like, an engineer's biggest problem is knowing what not to put into the solution. Basically, traditional engineers are forever trying to solve problems.
Yeah. But
maybe aren't very good at is why is this problem even needing to be solved? Like the whole thing just needs to be removed. So he just has a very clear-eyed way of thinking that I appreciate and I enjoy. I think it's enjoyable just to listen to him. He's very blunt. He doesn't care what people think.
Yeah.
So as far as a founder that's out there, like leading a company, there's nobody that I really care for except for him. I'm thinking of all the different people that might be out there. I like people that actually build things, that build tangible, technologies or products. I think those are more interesting than merely, investors.
Sure.
I think investors are important, but that's just not my world.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy him. And I can't even think of anyone else that I enjoy.
Maybe Jensen.
Who?
NVIDIA.
Yes, he's very sensible as well. Yeah. Jensen is definitely. I do like the way he thinks, and he is right on a lot of things. He just doesn't have as much content out there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. No, I mean, are you going to build a data center up in space, kind of like Elon Musk?
I am praying about that.
Yeah.
I am actually. That is something that when in my morning walks, I pray that a door would open for us to be able to have a data center presence in space.
That would be so cool. That'd be so cool.
And work with Musk to that end.
Yeah.
I am praying for Musk's salvation. I'm praying that he would come to the truth. And I'm praying that he would be so motivated to use his great resources and his gifts and all the tools that he's creating. He's creating Starlink, which has like 13,000 satellites presently. I think they're trying
which can enable SermonAudio to go to the remotest places.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
The AI piece, the data center piece, the distribution piece.
Yeah.
And if God so wills to use someone like Musk, it would be a great answer to prayer.
That is so cool. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. And you were one of the names when I first started this podcast. I was like, I want to have Mr. Lee on because I think SermonAudio is just so cool because it's a big company doing on mission. It's just a great story of you can start small and God will direct the steps.
I hope it does encourage some people. Part of the problem with people is they don't really know what to do. The world is so open. They can go in any direction. They don't know what to do. Well, I would just encourage them to do what you can with what you have currently. I mean, I started out with my local church doing the website, and it was from there that it was a natural thing to go from that to this. But if I'm not even doing that and I'm just thinking, what can I do way out here? It just doesn't work that way. Things work in steps. And you do the thing that's right in front of you first. And then when you're faithful over those little things, then more things will open to you. We're going to go to space one day.
That is awesome. Yeah. And this is the 20th episode of Christian Ambition. And so if you've enjoyed these episodes, please subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And this has been your guest, Mr. Stephen Lee. That's 21,000 to go. No matter where you find this Christian Ambition podcast, if you get anything out of this, anything at all, please like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.